This should be vlog number 8. Thanks for watching Two Wheels, One Compass. So what we're going to discuss today is we are now in the election season. As much as all of us just love to hear it over and over again, how important it is, I'd figure I would not so much stress the importance, but the relevance of voting. And this goes for anyone in any democratic society, because especially in the United States, when it comes to voting for president, if you're, with the exception of Nebraska and Maine, if you vote and your candidate doesn't win, it doesn't count. It's a winner-take-all system.
Look at it this way. For example, there are two states during the 2012 presidential election between Obama and Romney that were very close. In North Carolina, Romney won the entire state by barely getting a percentage point more of the vote than Obama did. The end result was him winning all 15 of the electoral votes the state had to offer. The same thing happened in the same election in a state a little farther to the south in Florida. Obama had barely squeaked by less than a percentage point, earning him all 29 electoral votes, which was pretty crucial to him winning the presidency for the next 4 years.
This election, I think we all know here in the States, is more about scandal than it is about policy. I think we can all agree on that. And the more scandal there is and the more mudslinging that goes on, the lower the voter turnout. And I think that a lower voter turnout is bad, no matter what, for everyone. So I figured I'd come out with a couple reasons why it is important to vote. I think that it's much more important than people think. Even if your candidate or your party that you're voting for doesn't win, it is still important. So here are some reasons why. So first off, it brings attention. Without you voting in an area, there will never be any momentum. You are a blip on a radar, whether or not your party or your candidate wins.
So for example, if you look at these maps, you'll see how the political landscape has progressed over the last 4 elections, from 2000 to 2012. In places like South Carolina, you'll see that the state has become more and more progressive, reflecting a similar change of its neighbor in North Carolina, which has become more liberal over the last couple elections. You'll see the same thing for the southern counties of Texas. Texas has always been the beating heart of the Conservative Party, and it's also the state that holds the second most electoral votes, the number one being California. Democratic votes in Texas have been steadily increasing since 2000. If people who favored the Democratic Party didn't go out to vote in Texas, even if Texas has been Republican for several presidential elections in a row, Texas would never change.
That means the Democratic Party will see that, even if they didn't win, and they know that maybe they should pool more resources in that area. That's why it's important. If you vote even a third party, a Green Party, a Libertarian, Constitutional, or an Independent, outside of the Democratic or Republican parties, you still blip on everyone's radar that someone in this area, in this region, maybe this neighborhood, voted this direction. So imagine if an entire neighborhood did that, or let's say...
How about entire states? During the Civil Rights Movement? For much of history, the Democratic Party in the Deep South was responsible for segregation. Republicans were the party of Lincoln, who had defeated the South in the Civil War, so for 100 years the Republican Party wasn't very popular south of the Mason-Dixon line. In 1960, John F. Kennedy, a Democrat, was pro-civil rights for blacks in the South. This caused many voters to leave the Democratic Party, never to return. In 1968, Hubert Humphrey was the Democratic candidate for president, and he was the lead author of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Again, the Deep South was absolutely against rights for blacks, so their vote went another direction. To win the South and these votes, Nixon pursued these states with the Southern Strategy, which is considered one of the biggest political realignments of the modern American age. The Republican Party appealed to segregationist voters in the South by appealing to their racist resentments. In 2005, Republican National Committee Chairman Ken Mailman formally apologized to the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP, for exploiting racial polarization to win elections and ignoring the black vote in the South. He stated, "Some Republicans gave up on winning the African American vote, looking the other way, trying to benefit politically from racial polarization. I am here as Republican chairman to tell you that we were wrong."
In the Deep South, you may have noticed a string of voters that are still voting blue. This is where things get interesting. This group of Democratic voters seem to line up with the counties that have a population that has a black majority. This demographic region is known as, and you may have guessed it, the Black Belt. The Republican Party has continued to ignore the black vote in the South. Even if they lose every election, for 50 years the black vote is still a Democratic majority in this region of the South. They still vote for the party that represents their interests. Shouldn't you? Another very good reason is that it could determine what platform the winning party runs on. So if you have a very pro-life representative that's running for an office, and most of the people that live in their district are pro-choice, you better bet that when they run, they're not going to make abortion an issue. In fact, they may even vote pro-choice against what they believe, just so they could garner those votes, so they could pick out the more liberal votes out of the moderates. And I think the number one thing is that if you don't vote, the states will always stay the same. If you never vote, there will never be any swing. The states will be red and blue forever. For example, this election cycle, Arizona, very interesting. Arizona is known for having a lot of old people that move south from the winter, and they tend to vote very, very Republican. However, they have a very high Latino population that votes very Democratic. And if they didn't vote, if there was no turnout, that state would stay red forever, or maybe at least until the older voting population died out in another generation. But it would be stuck there, fixed. There are people that watch those votes, and they know how to pick and choose which issues go into their platform, so they know how to best pander to the voters in your area. There is no such thing as a wasted vote. All of that information is compiled and put in demographics. All of it is monitored, watched from year to year to year to see how things are changing.
If you're pro Gary Johnson in California, vote Johnson.
If you're a pro-Clinton in Wyoming, vote Clinton, because otherwise nothing will change. It is important.